Hello students, welcome to this class. So today we are going to start the story Bringing Up Kari, written by Dhan Gopal Mukherjee. It's an extract from the novel Kari the Elephant. This is a very fine story about a baby elephant who was brought up by a young boy who describes about its activities like how he behaved in a particular situations. The story is interesting for you also because the narrator who brought up Kari is almost of your age. He is 9 years of age actually. So let's start the story. Kari the elephant was 5 months old when he was given to me to take care of. I was 9 years old and I could reach his back if I stood on tiptoe. He seemed to remain that high for nearly 2 years. We grew together. That is probably why I never found out just how tall he was. He lived in a pavilion under a thatched roof which rested on thick tree stumps so that it could not fall in when Kari bumped against the poles as he moved about. So here the narrator describes that Kari was only 5 months old when it was given to the narrator to brought up. The narrator was also only 9 years old and the height of the elephant was more than the narrator's. So when he wanted to reach his back, he had to stand on the tips of his toes. Kari remained of the same height for 2 years. Kari and the narrator played and grew together. That is the reason that the narrator was not able to describe how the actual height of Kari because he was too small that time. Kari lived in a pavilion or you can say in a shelter. It had a covered roof made of straw. This roof was rested on thick tree stumps so that it could not fall and hurt Kari if he bumped against the poles to go outside of this shelter. One of the first things Kari did was to save the life of a boy. Kari did not eat much, but he nevertheless needed 40 pounds of twigs a day to chew and play with. Every day I used to take him to the river in the morning for his bath. He would lie down on the sand bank while I rubbed him with the clean sand of the river for an hour. After that, he would lie in the water for a long time. On coming out, his skin would be shining like ebony. Ebony means dark black skin. So here the narrator describes more about Kari. That the first of all, Kari saved the life of a little boy. He ate 40 pounds of twigs in a day. 1 pound is equal to 500 grams approx. So it means that he needed 20 kgs of twigs every day to play with and chew. Every day the narrator used to bring him to the river in the morning to enjoy a fine bath. Kari lied down on the sandbank and the narrator rubbed him with this sand of river for approx an hour. After that, Kari went into the water and enjoyed there for a long time. When he came out of water, his body looked dark black and shiny. And he would squeal. Squeal means the sound of an elephant. With pleasure as I rubbed water down his back. Then I would take him by the ear because that is the easiest way to lead an elephant and leave him on the edge of the jungle while I went into the forest to get some luscious twigs for his dinner. One has to have a very sharp hatchet to cut down these twigs. It takes half an hour to sharpen the hatchet because if a twig is mutilated, an elephant will not touch it. So here, edge means corner, luscious means delicious or sweet, hatchet means axe, and mutilated means not in proper shape. So at that time, when he came out of water, he squealed with joy when the boy brushed water from his back. The boy carried him by pulling his ears because it is the easiest way to control or lead an elephant. Then he left him at the corner of the forest and went to collect some delicious twigs to feed him at the time of dinner. He says that a very sharp axe was needed to cut these twigs, and it took half an hour to sharpen the axe because if any twig is not in a proper shape, the elephant would never touch it. Means the elephant needs only the twigs which are in proper shape. So now it was not an easy job to get twigs and saplings for Kari. I had to climb all kinds of trees to get the most delicate and tender twigs, as he was very fond of the young branches of the banyan tree, which grows like a cathedral of leaves and branches. I was gathering some one spring day in March when I suddenly heard Kari calling to me in the distance. As he was still very young, the call was more like that of a baby than an elephant. So now here saplings means soft plants, delicate or tender means soft, and cathedral means a throne of the priest in the church. So the narrator says that it was tough to find soft twigs for Kari. He had to climb all kinds of trees to search soft twigs for Kari. Kari liked the soft and delicate branches of the banyan tree, which looks like in the form of the throne of the priest in the church. The narrator was collecting some twigs one day in the month of March. It was a fine spring day. Then he heard that Kari was squealing. He was calling him. His sound was like a young baby elephant because he was small at that time. So I thought somebody was hurting him. So I came down from my tree and ran very fast to the edge of the forest where I had left him. But he was not there. I looked all over, but I couldn't find him. So the boy was thinking at that time that Kari was in a trouble. So he ran fast to that corner where he left Kari. But he was surprised to see that Kari was not there. The narrator searched him everywhere, but he was unable to find him. So I went near the edge of the water and I saw a black something struggling above its surface. Then it rose higher and it was the trunk of my elephant. I thought he was drowning. I was helpless because I could not jump into the water and save the 400 pounds of him since he was much higher than I. But I saw his back rise above the water, and the moment he caught my eye, he began to trumpet and struggle up to the shore. Then, still trumpeting, he pushed me into the water, and as I fell into the stream, I saw a boy lying flat on the bottom of the river. He had not altogether touched bottom, but was somewhat afloat. I came to the surface of the water to take my breath, and there Kari was standing, his feet planted in the sandbank and his trunk stretched out like a hand waiting for mine. I dived down again and pulled the body of the drowning boy to the surface, but not being a good swimmer, I could not swim ashore, and the slow current was already dragging me down. So here, drowning means sinking, trumpet means the cry of elephant, shore means edge of the river, afloat means floating, and dived means went into the river again. So here, the narrator describes that he was searching for the elephant in panic and went near the shore of the water. Then he noticed some black type of thing struggling into the water to come up. And the first thought came in the narrator's mind was that Kari was likely to sink in the water. But he was also helpless because he was not able to save the heavy elephant which was of 400 pounds of him. So he was much heavier than the narrator, so he was unable to save him. But he noticed suddenly that his back was coming up towards water, and now he looked at the author and started crying to come towards the shore. He cried continuously and dragged him into the water, and the narrator was also in the river now. When the author fell into the water, he noticed that a boy was lying at the bottom of the river. His body was floating. The author came up to breath, and then the elephant stretched its trunk like support of hand for the author. So now the author dived again and dragged the body of the drowning boy with him to the surface, but he did not swimming. No, he did not know swimming perfectly, so he was unable to come to the shore by pulling that drowning boy. The flow of the stream pushing him down again and again, and he was struggling to come up. Seeing us drift by in the current, Kari, who was usually slow and ponderous, suddenly darted down like a hawk and came halfway into the water, where I saw him stretch out his trunk again. I raised up my hand to catch it and it slipped. I found myself going under the water again. But this time I found that the water was not very deep, so I sank to the bottom of the river and doubled my feet under me and then suddenly kicked the river bed and so shot upwards like an arrow. In spite of the fact that I was holding the drowning boy with my hand. As my body rose above the water, I felt a lasso around my neck. This frightened me. I thought some water animal was going to swallow me. I heard Kari squealing, and I knew it was his trunk about my neck. He pulled us both ashore. So here ponderous means heavy, darted means moved, hawk means an eagle, and lasso means a long rope. So the narrator continues telling about the incident that when Kari watched that we both were drowning into the water, then that slow and heavy animal moved suddenly like an eagle and stretched out its trunk again to save the author and the boy. The author tried to hold its trunk, but it was slippery and he was unable to hold it firmly. He found that he was again drowning into the water. But this time he found that the river was not so deep as he was thinking. So he doubled his feet and jumped towards the water again by carrying that boy with him. At the same moment, he noticed that a rope like thing around his neck. He was afraid to think that now he is going to be a food for some water animal. But in no time, he understood that when Kari squealed, that it was Kari's trunk around his neck and it pulled both of them at the shore of the river. In this way, Kari saved a boy who was about to die by sinking in the river. So this is the first part that we studied today, that how Kari behaved in adverse circumstances. So I hope it's clear to you. The next part we'll continue in the next session. So thank you.